us to build on the last 8 years of progress. And I think that's fantastic. I got involved, you can applaud for Bernie anytime. I got involved with the Obama campaign in 2008 because, among many other issues, then Senator Obama refused to accept federal lobbyist money in his presidential campaign. And currently, as you know, Bernie is the only candidate who's also refused to accept lobbyist money in this presidential campaign. Protected. I join millions of young people around the country in wanting to see that progress expanding. And this is where Bernie and his big ideas come into play. The media, as you know, has been criticizing Senator Sanders for being unrealistic. For promising too much on college affordability, being too idealistic about environmental protection, blah, blah, blah. Those are all really good qualities in my book. Not things to be criticized. In America, we should aim to think big. Back in the day when some people were like, hey, we should fly to the moon, I'm sure there were haters. I'm sure there were plenty of people who were like, no, you can't. But President Kennedy didn't make a speech saying, I feel sorry for young people who believe anything. You absolutely cannot go to the moon. We went to the freaking moon. So, big goals are really important. Some people seem to think that those of us who support Senator Sanders are somehow unaware of how the political process works. I disagree. We are aware that politics is a combination of give and take, that you're not going to get 100% of the things you propose or even fight hard for. But you don't have to agree with 100% of what every politician stands for. You're just not going to get any of it unless you don't push for 100% of these big ideas. Bernie's committed to expanding the president's commitment to prison reform and ending the for-profit. He has pledged to push to expand President Obama's Deferred Action Program to include the parents of citizens, the parents of legal permanent residents, and the parents of jurors. It protects vulnerable communities, Latinos, Asian Americans, and keeps all Americans stronger, obviously, by protecting families. This is the kind of progress that this is the kind of progress that Republicans have promised to roll back. And no offense to our friends who work in the lobbyist community, I have great friends like that. I like money too, I'm an actor on TV, I like money a lot. I buy the $40 Metro car. But I don't think that having money should allow you to buy a louder voice. That belief is not unrealistic. Bernie's big ideas can be executed because he doesn't owe anything to any special interests. Yeah. What is unrealistic is to convince ourselves that the status quo will miraculously produce different results. So look, bring 5 people to the polls, tell your friends around the country to go to berniesanders.com and sign up to make a difference. When millions of people come together to volunteer like this, that's the kind of difference that no lobbyist or special interest donors can surpass. And this guy I'm about to introduce will need all of that support in the coming weeks and months as he eventually takes on Donald Trump in the general election. Give it up for another human being who has love for going to the moon. Ladies and gentlemen, with your help, the next president of the United States.
state, and with your help, we're going to win the Democratic primary. $900 million in this campaign cycle to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. $900 million. When you have a handful of families spending more money than either the Democratic or Republican parties, that is not democracy. That is oligarchy. We will not allow that. To try to buy elections and undermine democracy, you got another reality going on. And that is you have cowardly Republican governors all over this country who are trying to suppress the vote. Now just think about it. Think about the torturous path that this nation has gone through in terms of democracy. Women couldn't vote. African Americans couldn't vote. Poor whites couldn't vote. And we struggled over our history. Good people stood up and fought back to expand democracy. And now, as a result of another disastrous Supreme Court decision undermining the Voting Rights Act of 1965, you got Republican governors figuring out ways that they can make it harder for poor people, people of color, young people, old people to participate in the political process. What an outrage. And what I say to those Republican governors, if they don't have the guts to participate in free, fair, and open elections, they should get out of politics, get another job. What democracy is about is not complicated, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart. I've run for office in Vermont a lot of times. I've lost some, I've won more. But what democracy is about is people participating in the political process, not making it harder for people to vote. We have one of the lowest voter turnout rates of any major country on earth. I want to see that number go up, not down. System. It is a rigged economy. Now again, in all of these discussions, what I think has to be appreciated is the media, the corporate media, will not, by and large, with few exceptions, discuss these issues in a significant way for a variety of reasons. But right now, you have an economy today where the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Got that?
Yep.
Not 1%, 1/10 of 1%. We're living in an economy today where the wealthiest 20 people, kind of what's up here in the front row, now owns more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. That is unsustainable. That is un-American. And together, we are going to change that. what Congress does, what the establishment does, is to tell you, hey, this is the way it is. It can't change. Yeah, we have a terrible and unequal distribution of wealth and income. So what? That's the way it is. Can't be changed. And what we have got to do is envision a nation in which, in fact, real change takes place. Now, right now in this country, we have millions of people working longer hours for lower wages than was the case 20 or 30 years ago. You don't want to know why people are angry? Because you got men and women in the workforce whose real inflation-adjusted incomes are substantially lower than they were 40 years ago or 10 years ago. And people are asking, how does it happen? We got all this technology which makes workers more productive. We got a global economy. We got all these free trade agreements. Why is it that people are working 2 or 3 jobs in order to cobble together the income and the health care that they need? Something does not add up here. And here is another fact. Today in America, our people in the United States work the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. You know, 100 years ago, if you remember history, workers used to march down the streets in demonstrations, and they held up these huge banners, and the banner said, "We want the 40-hour week." Well, you know what? We still have not gotten the 40-hour week. Same old. It's where We are going to... The wealthy and the large corporations will start paying their fair share of taxes. In addition to that, just start thinking about the things that we have to do. Let's start talking about the littlest ones, the children. In America, that's right. You know, a great country, and as you know, some of you may know, I'm going to the Vatican on Thursday night. Brilliant and brave in talking about it, and that is how we need to create a moral economy. A moral economy. So let's start off. You got little kids. Well, before we even get to little kids, let's talk about this one. Today in New York City, today in Vermont, women are having beautiful babies. Now, if she has a baby today. The likelihood is that in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what happens? She is forced to be separated from that baby, go back to work in order to earn the income she needs to take care of her family. And by the way, as long as I live, I will never know how single mothers do it. That does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. Right? And that means that while in other countries, moms and dads can stay home from work 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, in our country, if you're poor, you're working class, you may have to be separated from your baby in 2 or 3 weeks, go back to work. That is outrageous. That is unacceptable. Co-sponsored, introduced by your senator, Kirsten Gillibrand, which will provide 3 months paid family and medical leave. Okay, baby is born. Okay, now what happens to the baby? Well, mom, dad, in most cases, because families, mom and dad go to work. Mom goes to work. Child goes to child care or pre-K. And let's be honest about this. Do we have any psychologists in the room? Oh, there's a psychologist. Okay. What? What? Okay, that counts. Well, psychologists tell us is the most important years of human development, intellectually and emotionally, are 0 through 4. Right? That's what we should. Think about what we do to the little kids. We have a dysfunctional child care and pre-K system where many of the people working with those kids, getting McDonald's-type wages, don't have adequate training, don't have any benefits, don't see it as a career. What we have got to do is revolutionize child care and pre-K education. All intellectually alive. We can do that, but we're going to have to hire hundreds of thousands of well-trained, well-paid, dedicated teachers who work with the most vulnerable students. Then you go to school. Well, I'm a product of New York City public schools. A few years ago, I went to PS 197, and then I went to James Madison High School. And a pretty good basketball team, if I do say so myself. I've got a pretty good education. But now, you look at public schools all over this country, and many of the kids are not getting the quality education they need. In city after city, many of the school buildings are falling apart. In major cities like Detroit or Chicago, really, really serious problems with public education. What do we have to do? It's not a radical idea. We are living in a society where education is the key to human development. But you know what? Actually, teachers do more important work than quarterbacks. And that means, as a nation, we have to change our culture to appreciate the importance of education, to honor teachers, to make sure that as a nation, create a strong public school system where the best and brightest understand the joy of going into teaching, and they're proud of their profession. But then we also have to understand that in many respects, a high school degree 50 years ago was the equivalent of what a college degree is today because of changes in technology. All right, the simple truth is that today, to make it into the middle class, you need more education than somebody did 50 years ago because of the changes in the economy. I grew up in a family, did not have a lot of money. My parents never went to college. Millions of families in the same boat. What I think we have got to do is make it very clear that when we talk about public education today, we're not just talking about first grade through 12th grade. We have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. But today, the idea of making public colleges and universities is not a new and unique idea, not something I invented. In Germany, you all know, what? In Germany it exists. In Scandinavia it exists. And here's something that you may not know. It virtually existed in this country 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you had great public universities like City College, Brooklyn College, Queens College. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory is that tuition 40, 50 years ago was virtually free. Is that right? University of California, tuition virtually free. Other colleges, all public colleges and universities all over this country. Why is it that 50 years later, when we are in many ways a wealthier country than we were then, why is college increasingly unaffordable for so many of our families? And why are so many people leaving school deeply in debt? No? That's the question we have to answer. So, what we're going to do is two things. Number one, make public colleges and universities tuition free. Number two, make it possible for the millions of people who have student debt to refinance their debt at the lowest interest rate. Young woman in my home city, Burlington, Vermont, went to medical school, her dream, she's now a doctor in a community health center, came out of school $300,000 in debt. Dentist in Iowa, $400,000 in debt. Kid I met on the campaign trail, dropped out of college 2 years, $60,000 in debt. Guy I met in Nevada, he has been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's more in debt today than he was when he took it out. It is insane. Of course it's insane. Thinking outside of the box, outside of the status quo is about. Take a deep breath and you say, okay, nobody disagrees that it is enormously important for us to get the best education that we can from a human perspective and from an economic perspective. We need the best educated workforce. Why are we punishing people severely for getting the education they need? It is insane. Free. It's not just that it saves people money, they don't go into debt, that's very important. But think what else it does, which is even more important. As I said, I grew up in a family that did not have a lot of money, my parents didn't go to college. For millions of families in this country, for kids, for low-income families, the idea of going to college is about as realistic as going to the moon. It's not within their world purview. And what I want to see happen is I want every parent, every teacher, every kid in America to understand that if those children do their schoolwork well, if they take school seriously, yes, regardless of the income of their families, they will be able to get a college. $70 billion a year. That's a lot of money. How are we going to pay for it? Okay, let's go back a little bit. About 8 years, our good friends on Wall Street.
No. Come on.
Not really my good friends. I have to be honest with you. All right, their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior drove this economy into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. You all know that. And then, after destroying half the economy, these guys went crying to Wall Street, to the Congress, and said, bail us out. We'll be good boys. Bail us out. And Congress, against my vote, did bail us out. But I think right now, in 2016, it is time to tell them that we will impose a tax on Wall Street speculation, which will bring in more than enough money to pay for free tuition at public colleges and universities and lowering student debt. If we can bail out the illegal behavior of Wall Street, then Wall Street can help the working families of this country. And that is why we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15. This campaign is listening to senior citizens and disabled veterans. And they cannot make it, nor can anybody make it on $11,000 or $12,000 a year Social Security. Cannot be done. Now, with millions of seniors struggling to buy the medicine they need, the health care they need, heating their homes, our Republican friends have come up with a brilliant concept in Congress. They said, let's cut Social Security benefits.
No!
I don't think so.
Woohoo!
We're not going to cut Social Security benefits. We're going to expand Social Security. And by the way, that is not a hard thing to do. Many of the senior groups are demanding, and I agree with them, that we lift the cap on taxable income. Right now, you have somebody making $5 million a year and somebody making $118,000. They're both contributing the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund. You lift the cap, you go up, start off at $250,000 and above. And if you lift the cap and you have people making millions paying the same percentage of their income into the trust fund as somebody making $40,000 a year, we can extend the life of Social Security for 58 years and increase benefits for seniors living under $16,000 a year by $1,300 a year. This is not a radical idea. This is exactly what Barack Obama campaigned on in 2008. Now, Hillary Clinton opposed this idea in 2008. She has yet to be clear about her views on this. So I challenge Secretary Clinton today. Tell us, are you prepared to lift the cap on taxable income and increase benefits? This campaign is listening to women. And what women are telling me is they are tired of working for 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. They want the whole damn dollar in their life. We are listening to the African American community. And we are listening to the African American community who are asking us, how does it happen that we have trillions of dollars to spend in a war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into? Apparently, we don't have enough money to rebuild inner cities all across this country. In this city, whether it is New York Housing Authority apartments or other apartments, we need to rebuild our housing stock and build millions of units across this country of affordable housing. unification, and protection. I was in the South Bronx a week or so ago, and they were telling me that 1 out of 4 children in that particular community has asthma from breathing the crap that's in the air. We have schools that are physically deteriorating. We have unemployment rates that are far, far too high. We have got to understand that if we can rebuild the infrastructure of Iraq and Afghanistan, we sure as hell can rebuild America's investment over a 5-year period will go a long way to rebuilding our roads, our bridges, water systems, wastewater plants, affordable housing, levees, and dams, and create up to 13 million decent-paying jobs. Yeah, and by the way, we got legislation in to make it easier for workers to join unions. Without a strong trade union movement, we will never have a strong middle class. So thank you for your campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. And they are telling me that with 11 million undocumented people in this country, many of whom are being exploited. We don't talk about that too much. But if you don't have any legal rights, you know what? You are underpaid, you are cheated, and you have no capability of fighting back. All right? You got I agree with the Latino community that we have got to move toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. Does not do its job, I will use the executive powers of the presidency to do everything that I can. Our goal must be to unite families, not divide families. Campaign is listening to a group of people who get very, very little attention, and that is the Native American community. Anybody who has read 5 minutes of American history understands that from before we were officially a country, when the first settlers came, the Native Americans were lied to, they were cheated, and many treaties negotiated with them were broken. We owe the Native American people more than we can ever repay. They have taught us more than any people the need to understand that as human beings, we are part and one with nature, and that we cannot destroy nature if our people are surviving. I was just in Wisconsin the other day, and somebody there told me something. They said, there's a tribe out there make any decisions, they think about the impact of those decisions for 7 generations forward. In this country today, corporate America thinks about the decisions about how much money they can make in the next 3 months, and the hell with anything else. I think we gotta learn something. Which takes me to an issue that the Native American people and all of us are deeply concerned about. I am a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment, and what I can tell you is that the debate is over. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. Devastating problems in our country and around the world. And what the scientists are also very clear about, and they're getting me really, really nervous, because what they are saying is many of the projections they have been making may have underestimated the impact of climate change. So what they are saying is if we don't act in an incredibly bold way, aggressive way, we're going to be looking at more and more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more rising sea levels, more acidification of the ocean, and more wars and conflicts all over the world as people fight over limited natural resources. So what we have got to do from a moral perspective is to appreciate that we have got to leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable for our kids and our grandchildren. And that means, in a very unequivocal way, telling the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this country. Yeah! Pre-existing conditions. We have added 17 million people to the ranks of the insured. We have done away with discrimination against women who are paying higher health care premiums than they should have. But, despite all of that, and And that was all good stuff. Today, 29 million Americans have no health insurance. And many of you, and millions of others, are underinsured with high deductibles and copayments. Am I right? And then, on top of all of that, you got the drug companies who are ripping us off in an unconscionable way.
See?
They are not a very popular industry. Because everybody knows. There is no law. You can go to the drugstore tomorrow and buy medicine you've been taking for 20 years. The price could be double. And there's nothing that right now we are able to do about that. We pay the highest prices in the world. And what happens is that 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford today to purchase the prescriptions that doctors are writing. Seniors are cutting their pills in half because they can't afford the medicine they need. Meanwhile, the 3 largest drug companies in America last year made $45 billion in profit. They're making incredible profits while people are dying because they can't afford the medicine they need. So, my view is that at a time when we are spending far more per person on healthcare than any other country on earth, and not in some cases getting even the kind of outcomes that these other countries are providing, now is the time to go forward with a Medicare for all single-payer program. Change, as I mentioned a moment ago, never takes place from the top on down, always the bottom line. And we are now at that moment in American history where I believe, and what this campaign is, I think, capturing the reality that millions of people are looking around and saying, I don't get it. Why do we have so much income and wealth inequality? Why is the middle class continuing to decline? Why is it that millions of young people are leaving school deeply in debt? Why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country? Why are women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men? Why are we the only major country without paid family and medical leave? Why is our infrastructure collapsing? Why do we have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires are buying elections? Why do we have a media out there which tells us everything that we don't need to know? But very little about what we do need to know. And what people are saying and sensing is that this is that moment in history. We're looking around saying the status quo is not working. It's got to change. Secretary Clinton's real problem is that it is just too late for establishment politics and establishment economics. People do not believe that you can go and have a super PAC, as the Secretary does, and collect millions of dollars from Wall Street and other special interests, and then go out and do what you have to do for the working families of this country. So where we are right now is at a moment where we have a chance to bring profound change to this country. And I do not want for 1 second to make you think that this is easy, nor do I want you to believe, and I say this every day, that any president, Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. That is not the way it happens. Ever came from the top on down. We need millions of people to essentially stand up, flex their muscles, and understand that in our country, if you choose to fully exercise your political power, that's not meaning voting, but really understand that you have enormous power, we will transform this country. The reason we're not doing it is for a variety people are demoralized. They are told over and over again, you've got no power, this is the way it is, this is the way it will always be, and you can't do anything about it. Well, I think we can do something.